Alright guys, welcome to the GameSpeak episode 6. I am your host, Snoop603. Joining me, my co-hosts are Scanner Barkley, Wind Up the Tiger, back from his short break now that this semester of school is wrapped up. And filling in for Epona on an emergency basis is Chalk1. Before I get into it, I'd want to address something right off the bat. And it is in regards to everyone here watching, and maybe a few people that aren't watching but have done the favor of retweeting the stream. I do not sound like a broken record when I say this, but it doesn't mean it's not honest. I legitimately and genuinely appreciate everything you guys do to help support this stream, the podcast specifically. The podcast is one of the funnest things I've done with this channel in quite a while. Like, I loved it when Fake Thrill and I did it. We just couldn't keep it consistent. We've kept it going so far, even with a couple of change-ups in people we've had for hosts and stuff, which hasn't been a big deal, but we've been able to get through it no problem, not missing a beat. And like I said, this is one of the funnest things I've done. It allows us to cover a whole ton of topics and just speak freely without any issues. So again, thank you everyone for doing everything. That's really it. Just wanted to make sure that I want you guys to know that I see all the effort you put in to help us out, and I appreciate it, and I want to acknowledge that. With that introduction out of the way, we're going to jump into it. Now, surprisingly, we actually only had one topic on the forums for this week, which is okay because we had a lot left over from last week we didn't get to, so I'm assuming that people didn't really throw anything up because there's so much we didn't cover last week that we're going to have left over for this week, so no big deal. It works out. The first topic we are going to cover is from Limit, and I'm going to summarize because he's got a decent paragraph here. This is, what do you guys think about the overall services of the video game market? Example like Steam, Origin, Xbox Live, PlayStation Network. Do you think you should pay more just to play your games online to that dedicated console? Does anyone want to jump on that first, or would you like me to handle it?
You go first, because I wasn't paying attention.
Alright.
Yeah, go ahead, boss.
I'm not going to be able to update the topic. I feel like we covered this already. Maybe not in depth, but I feel like we covered this very topic very recently. And if I recall, it doesn't remember. Anyway, we'll cover it again. It's not a big deal. But I was hoping someone would point out whether or not I had or not.
We've kind of touched off it in relation to different answers.
Okay. It was mind-boggling because I'm going through the document earlier today. I'm like, dude, this sounds so familiar. I swear to God, we covered this already. But I don't remember. At any rate. All right. In short and speaking generally, I don't think you should pay to play online for specific platforms unless you're paying for a specific service that greatly increases your online gaming quality or experience, however you want to spin it. If it's paying to make sure like that the server's always running without fault, or for an additional service that's additional worthwhile features beyond just being able to play online, I'm all for it. As how much you pay for those services and features, that's where it kind of gets tricky. I haven't played on console in a while. I don't know what they offer now for you to play online. Like, as far as I know, Xbox Live hasn't changed when it went from the 360 to the One. PlayStation Network, when I had the PS3, was free, but then you had PS Premium. And essentially all that did was just give you like a bunch of free games you could get to, and then maybe early access on some titles. That I don't remember. But if I understand it correctly, and please someone step in if I'm wrong, PlayStation 4, now everyone has to be PS Premium. You have to pay for a monthly service or a yearly service to play online.
Well, first off, you fucking scrub, it's PlayStation Plus.
Whatever.
There
Tony's
are
pest
some
knowledge is strong.
I know, my peasant knowledge. I know. Excuse me, boys. There are certain things that you can do online without needing PlayStation Plus. There are some games that they don't require it, but if you want to play Battlefield, you need PlayStation Plus. As far as benefits, they give you games you can download for I don't know, they last for like a month or so. So you've got some titles you can play.
Limited? They're not permanent?
I think they are, but
you've got them forever once you download them, and the offers change.
Yeah, that's what it is. You can see how often I actually turn on my PlayStation.
Xbox
here's some knowledge to add to Tony's point. Last year, PlayStation gave away $1,300 worth of free stuff, on PlayStation Plus games-wise, and Xbox Live Marketplace gave away $540 worth of free stuff, which for like 50-60 bucks down is actually quite a nice comeback.
Yeah, it seems like they added that stuff on afterwards to appease people who didn't want to just have to pay for playing online. It's like, you have to do it for that, but here we'll also give you some free games, which in the end turns out pretty well, because I think PlayStation Plus has actually been giving away some pretty good games, not ones that are 8 years old kind of thing.
Yeah, not like garbage shit, but good stuff.
Yeah, because they gave away Payday 2 recently within the last 4 months for PS3.
Still, it's it's a good title. It's not like you're getting just some fucking random thing.
Yeah, so I downloaded it. I haven't played it, but I got it.
Sounds like a Steam game.
Yeah, exactly. All the shit I get from Steam. But it was like, they gave all that free shit away when the PlayStation Network was hacked a couple years back. I still got titles that I was like Infamous 2, I think it was, or Infamous 1. So I downloaded everything they gave out for free. So that's a good thing. They're doing some other weird things though, like you can start to now stream games, but you have to pay for it though. It's like a red box, just digital streaming of old like PS2, PS3 titles, and I think even PS1 titles, which I'm against.
Yeah.
I don't like that whole like you can pay $5 or whatever, and you can stream it for like 3 or 4 or 5 days or whatever the hell the rate is. I think it's retarded. Like, I would like to just personally buy it, to be honest, if it's a game you want to play over and over again.
But you can also buy it, can't you, on the store?
I'm not sure. I'm just talking about the specific. I can't remember what it's called off the top of my head, but there's a specific sort of application on the PS4, the XMB, that allows you to go in, and it's only for streaming though, from what I've seen. But I looked at that. I was like, well, that's stupid. I looked at the rates. I was like, that's retarded. Like, why would anyone pay for that? No one's gonna play a game, a full title, unless you binge play it in like 2 or 3 days.
That's always been the problem with renting games from most places in the past, anyways. But I mean, back when I can only speak to the pay services back when I was playing on Xbox 360 and Xbox Live, which always seemed like a bit of a ripoff, especially when you're coming from the PC where all the multiplayer stuff is free. But I think the benefit I always got out of paying the money for Xbox Live was that from a social aspect, finding friends and communicating with friends usually worked pretty flawlessly. So it kind of made that a real easy couch-like experience. You didn't have to set anything up. You didn't have to connect to any TeamSpeak or worry about stuff. It just kind of worked. Oh, shit. Whereas the PS3 stuff back then wasn't nearly as good.
I thought, to be honest, when I started with like online console play and I was paying for the privilege, I was just surprised to find out so many people had fucked my mother. I thought that was worth paying $50 to find out.
Oh fuck, that's funny.
But I don't know. Like, I have no problem with these services once there's some kind of value coming back to the consumer. Like, you're not just paying for some like empty product. Like, this concept of you're paying for multiplayer. Well, guess what? If a company wants to bring out a game and have multiplayer, then they should facilitate my playing of that multiplayer for the fucking money I'm paying them for the goddamn game. If they're not able to do that, then why are they doing a multiplayer? I think Xbox, of all people, have actually done it right this time, because they're taking care of the actual like hardware side of things for the games that release. And from my knowledge, Titanfall on PC was using the Azure servers, and it ran well, ran smooth most of the time, like anywhere up to 120 ping I could play with, and it was incredibly manageable, which is nuts for a game that fast. Like, I should have been really suffering with that kind of pace, but I wasn't. I was doing fine. So I'm not really going to bitch about it. They're offering people value back, that's all I ever asked from a company to do. I understand they want to make money, they want to cover overheads, but just give people back stuff. So
I think that's the bottom line. As long as you're getting good value for your dollar, then I'm all for it. whatever.
Well, and
service it
frankly,
is.
now that Sony's doing it as well, you don't really have a choice anymore.
True.
Yeah,
So,
Yeah.
exactly. It is what it is. Pay or don't, and don't play.
Right.
What the fuck?
Let's actually, from that, I want to... Hang on. There's a good topic we can segue to that kind of is along the same lines as that. Yeah, good. It's actually the next one. So now we're into leftover topic mode. Things that we didn't get to discuss last week because, funnily enough, Epona was like, nah, I'm not feeling good tonight, so let's not cover these topics. So save for next week. And, of course, now she's not here. So we're going to cover them anyway.
Gonna interrupt for 2 seconds. Any of you sluts in the chat who don't own the banner saga yet, it's 75% off right now on Humble Bundle. So go buy that and stop being an idiot. Now,
I second that.
it's such a good game, and he announced the second one at that PlayStation Experience garbage. So
Sounds like I'm talking about the backside of my mic. Oh, that can't be good.
But
Cancel. Really? Why am I hard to hear? Hang on, I cranked up my volume. I mean, I don't know. My son.
Mustard can only hear voices that have a Texas twang.
my son was just down here with me playing with it, so he did knock it around a little bit. It wasn't quite facing me, but hopefully that's a bit better. Oh, Jesus Christ, that's kind of high. So many different things to do. Okay.
All those technical difficulties.
I know. I'm sorry. Okay, segueing from the discussion about paying for online services to continuing that topic about how you want to spend your money and stuff. This one's from I Eat Rocks, and he wrote a fucking book. There's no way I'm going to repeat the whole thing, so I did a too long didn't read version for you guys to sum it up. Again, from I Eat Rocks, he said, isn't the gaming industry already teetering on the edge of an all-digital foundation? Isn't it time for console gamers to move away from disc media and accept digital game purchases? And as far as alienating next-gen console buyers who do not have internet access, is that really a lucrative section of the demographic to sell games to in the first place? Scanner actually had quite a lot to say on top of this as I did, but Scanner, I'm going to let you jump off on it.
Alright, first, hang on, I'm going to go and find it. Where's my notes? Where's my fucking notes?
It's just down below the last one, brah. Update the topic.
Oh yeah, there it is. I forgot I type in orange. Okay, first important point to note here is that not all internets are created equal. So it's fine for me to sit here with like whatever speeds I'm getting that are good and think, wow, everybody should buy all their games online and download them all the time. Tell that to the guy with fuck all internet who's trying to download 55 gigs of fucking Titanfall or 60 gigs of Advanced Warfare or 45 gigs of Wolfenstein or 75 gigs of The Elder Scrolls Online. I think Elite Dangerous is topping out at 42 gigs. Like, they're just recent titles, but that's the way, like, games are just getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. So it's by no means going to suit everybody to download everything all the time. It's not even going to suit the actual publishers to be able to directly sell to you, because brick and mortar stores provide a huge like footprint of PR and marketing that doesn't exist on the internet, and not everybody gives a fuck about the internet. Like, it's this thing that we've got where we think I spend all day doing a thing, so lots of other people are like me. But they're not. Like, most people don't pay a blind bit of fucking attention to the internet. That's just the way it is. So you've got big free advertising, free PR, free fucking customer service, all being provided by these stores who take all the shit that people want to give them when games are crap and stuff. It's a really important part of it. It's also stores that keep prices high. If you're selling your item in a store for like $60, you're then completely justified via corporate logic to sell that on your own storefront for $60.
Well, there's a good reason for that too.
The $60 on your storefront is 100% profit for you.
Right.
So why are you going to undercut what you could possibly sell, the percentage of your product that you do digitally, for less? Like, all of a sudden, if you got to contend with Steam as the trendsetter in your marketplace, you're boned. Like most companies can't eat those prices. They can't afford to go around and bring in a load of indie devs who are only using their store as a like their storefront with no allegiance or attachment to the actual publisher or the developer or anything like that. Like you can't compete with what
Which is
Steam can do
why
without
EA is
massive
in the perfect
investment.
world with Origin and the, physical copies.
Yeah, exactly. There's huge advantages to letting Steam be Steam and letting digital do its thing and benefit you without having to actually invest in it in any fucking way. So I think it'd be a mistake for an all digital anything.
Also, I
Um,
don't think gamers are ready for that yet. I mean, remember when they announced the current gen consoles, and there was all this talk about not being able to sell you used copies,
yeah,
and all that stuff, and the uproar. People still want to be able to play their Call of Duty and then take it back and trade it in along with something else for the next game and pay an extra $10 instead of the full 60 again.
yep.
You know,
Plus, there's something nice about having a game on a shelf.
Yeah,
When
that's
all
that's
is
true.
said and done, I've got one or two games preserved from every generation of gaming I've ever played in. I mean, I've got Spectrum games on the shelf.
Yeah.
It's just nice to have that little like physical reminder, as opposed
Another
to like, oh shit, my hard drive's dead. Everything's gone. Better
right.
re-download it all on my shitty fucking internet.
Did you see that happen to fucking Jimmy Snakes? Like 3 or 4. Oh man, it was sometime earlier this year. One of his hard drives shit the bed, and it was like a 2 terabyte drive full of nothing but Steam games.
Probably full of nothing but screenshots of people crying at him on the internet.
Pretty much.
Please leave me alone, Jimmy.
You know, one aspect that I don't think some people consider when it comes to going all digital media with game releases, especially for consoles, is not everyone can make that kind of sacrifice to have the internet at the same time. Like gaming in itself isn't really expensive, but it's not really cheap either. And there are a lot of people out there. I'm not saying the majority when I say a lot, just numbers wise, there are a lot of people out there that aren't really financially that well off. And a large part of that number are also families. But the beauty about gaming, and especially with a console, is it's a one-time cost. So people, if they've got kids and they're trying to just do what they can to make their kids happy, buying a game console is actually good value for your dollar because it's, like I said, it's a one-time thing. So you buy the game console, you're in good shape. Yeah, you probably had to do a lot, work really, really hard to get that, but you're good. And then same thing with the game. But so now you got these. Again, I would hazard a guess at a significant number of people. Not like if you lose them all, you're going to lose all your business, but it's certainly still a good number of people that you don't want to alienate whatsoever. If you remove physical copies of the game, you're going to lose a lot of those customers. These people, they're just barely getting by enough to get the console and then get a game here and there. They're not going to be able to pony up the coin for internet access, and so you're gonna alienate them because one, they either don't have physical copies of games anymore that they can purchase, or two, one of the other points he made was there. What if the next gen consoles move to a new form, if you will, that playing online you have to have online for the game, for the servers to register, like, oh, okay, yeah, you own this game and it's registered to you, so it's good to go. That kind of like online double checking that you're not playing on a bullshit copy. You can't alienate those people. There's a lot of people out there that can't, or choose not to, for whatever reason, to afford to be connected online, to have that online connectivity to their games. So going all digital in that aspect, you're undercutting yourself from what I would hazard a guess at a large number of people that would otherwise just be like, okay, well, I guess that's, fuck it. We're just not going to spend it because either we can't or we don't want to. Simple as that.
There's enough people in the world buying physical copies of games to keep tens of thousands of game stores open all around the world.
Mm-hmm.
It's a big market, and you don't just like cut off a percentage of your potential customer base in any business. Like hookers don't turn away ugly people. You know what I mean?
Well, what I was gonna say is that from like a PC standpoint, you end up installing the game on your hard drive, right? So you really don't You used to have to use the disc, to boot up the game, and then you got to a point where you didn't need that anymore. You'd have a launcher. So once the disc was used, you didn't need it unless you were reinstalling the game. Well, console is still very much disc-based, right? And so I think there's just sort of the history of the disc-based platform, and I think that's just out of habit. I think that's what people are really enjoying. It's just that's what's unique about the console, and I think if you take that away, I think it takes away the unique aspect. And we've been talking about like retailers, these brick and mortar shops and people wanting to trade in their games. That's all like, I think from where I stand, it's all ingrained into the culture of console gaming. So if you remove that, you're removing what also been hit upon is the affordability of upgrading and buying new games. Because if you're stuck with a $60 title, then you're stuck with a $60 title. You can't trade it in.
Right.
Fuck me, I'm tired.
Bitch, I ain't got time for you to be tired.
I'm not a performing monkey.
You don't have your little symbols?
Oh, dude, I would love them.
Yeah.
You should get
Imagine how
like a little hat.
Can you imagine how pissed he would be?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And the best thing is, I could be like one of those agile little monkeys. Like, I have two cymbals in my hand. I could have two on my knees, like a one-man band. It'd be like clunk, clunk. It'd be legit.
All right. Does anyone have any last-minute thoughts on this before we roll into the next topic? We're flying through these, but we're doing a good job with them. Nothing. All right. Next up. Ooh, there it is. Okay, this one's from LMNO Speed. What makes a game of the year for you guys? Story, game mechanics, graphics, replayability, just all around having fun. Is any one of those more important than the other when it comes to game of the year? I have a lot to say on this, but I don't want to start off with it. I want someone else, either Chalk or Tony, to jump off on this one.
Oh wow, you said my name really harshly, so I think I'll start off.
Chalk or fucking Tony.
So clearly it's Tony. You know what? For me, I think game of the year, it really has to be story driven. This sounds so weird, but I want to be able to have some sort of an emotional connection to the characters. It's like reading a good book. Like when you read a really good book, like a bestseller, you're sort of invested in the story, you're invested in the characters, especially if it's like a franchise, right? So with games and game of the year, I love the ones that you're invested in characters. And I go back to The Last of Us all the freaking time. But even like the Uncharted series, those are games where you're invested into the characters themselves and the story. Gameplay is a factor. I mean, it's all a factor, but if I were to pick one aspect, it's got to be the storyline.
I'm going to kill you. I feel like you read my notes and fucking repeated them verbatim.
No, dude.
It's almost exactly what I said, word for word.
Oh, really? Yeah, because I see that email. I'm like, hey, can I have the notes? And you're like, yeah, sure. And I pretty much got the email. I was like, okay, I'll look at those during the podcast. Where's the question at, anyways?
It's about halfway down. I'm gonna jump in on top of you because, like I said, I wrote down almost the exact same thing. Everything plays into it. That's what makes the game of the year, because it is a compilation of all of the things done really well or better. But the absolute crux of it, the most important factor, is the story. If you don't have a good story, it doesn't matter. I mean, I'm not going to pick out any specific games, but you can have a game that looks fucking awesome, and then maybe the game mechanics are okay, but we're talking like groundbreaking, never been seen before, completely landscape altering graphics. But it doesn't mean shit if the story's shit. You know what I mean? It's just not
Division.
Excuse me. That's the fear everyone has. But really, what it comes down to is games are not that dissimilar from books. Look at books. A good book is eternal. A shitty book no one fucking hears about. It becomes recycled material inside of a couple months. But a good book, everyone will talk about for a long time. You get emotionally invested in it. Books are a big thing in just about everyone's lives. And video games are no different. I mean, a video game is just essentially a book told in visual form. It's a story in visual form, and even more importantly, you yourself get to play the character. So everything basically starts and ends with that storyline. From there, you need to back it up with at least I don't want to really necessarily say average graphics, but at least something that either keeps pace with what the industry is pumping out for most advanced graphics, if you will, or takes it in a completely unique direction. And then game mechanics need to be not quite flawless, because I don't know if there is such a thing with any game, but they got to be pretty damn close. Again, it all comes down to that storyline. If you don't have a good storyline that gets you emotionally invested in it, and when I say emotionally invested, I feel like people probably think that I'm saying like sad or depressed or just makes you want to cry or whatever. No, it just emotionally invested in whatever that emotion is. It doesn't matter. It elicits emotion and passion within you. That's game of the year material for me.
That's my default emotion.
So like, BioShock Infinite would have been my game of the year choice. It had a bit of everything. I thought the storyline was fantastic, and that one was emotionally moving, but not in like in a sad or angry sense. It was just like in a mind-blowing, like holy mindfuck kind of way. And I've mentioned that a lot of times over, the past couple of months between various commentaries and within this podcast alone. But it still holds true. It's fucking fantastic game. If you haven't played it yet, you got to pick it up when it's on a really, really good sale price.
To me, it comes down to what game is most memorable and what game I feel like while I'm playing it, I want to keep playing it. Like, it's the game that I don't want to put down. The game that I want to get back to the next day. Because I found lately I've been playing a lot of games that are good, but none of them make me, like want to rush home from work and be like, I want to get back into that game. Usually that's sort of what makes a game of the year for me. But I considered this recently with all the game of the year talk this time of year. I'd be real curious what people's numerical stats are compared to what their game of the year is. Like, what game have you played the most in the year? And I think a lot of times that won't be people's game of the year, but then the question is like, well, why are you playing that so much? So it'd be interesting.
You know what? But to go on what you were saying, I think the problem is the amount of time put in usually ends up being like a multiplayer game. Yeah. And so I don't think game of the year is based upon multiplayer platforms, right? It's solely on the single player, or is it sort of on the whole?
I thought it was.
Because I was just perusing through the different gaming magazines' game of the year.
Don't do that.
I know.
Yourself.
Sorry, but I'm just trying to see. And you don't see shit like Battlefield or Call of Duty.
Game of the year for most magazines or websites or any of those things just means what can we all as a group of people arrive at a consensus of something that we're willing to put our reputation on as calling the game of the year. It doesn't actually mean what game did we enjoy the most. Like, everybody at Rock Paper Shotgun could, like, I love Rock Paper Shotgun, don't get me wrong, but everybody there could have all the fucking time in the world. Like, they could spend 17 hours a day for 6 months playing Call of Duty, but they will never give that game of the year because it flies in the face of the convention of what it is that they push as gaming. The same way as IGN could spend 27 million fucking hours playing like Papers, Please or Gone Home or some fucking Twine game about Klingons falling in love, and they'd never give that game of the year because it would, like, fucking regular media is just bogus as shit, especially when it comes to gaming. It's not about what's good and what's bad. It's about, this is the line we're taking and we're going to drive this, and we're going to hire people to drive this line, and we're going to hire producers to drive this line.
And also, hasn't the term game of the year sort of lost its meaning?
Yeah, because there's 27 million games of the year.
There's 27 of them, and 8 of them have won like 12 game of the year titles each. So it's kind of like, it's not like, I don't think the Oscars are a good example, but at least there's only a set number that are given out to things, right? Whereas here it's like, this game's gotten 15 game of the year titles, and so have those other 84 games.
We need to have like the Emmys for gaming.
Yeah, we do. Hey, Dawnbreaker can start hosting it. We'll set the bar for everyone to follow. I'll be like, guys,
oh shit,
you had game of the year. You had game of the year. No, fuck everyone.
Fuck
right here.
No.
This
what
is
we
game
need
of the
to
year.
do. We need to set up a Kickstarter so we can get ourselves rent a stage and shit.
Rent some tuxes.
Yep.
Coke.
That's it. You know what?
Samuel L. Jackson, he likes to be, presenters on this shit. We'll get him to present, Game of the Year for the Emmys of gaming.
I like him. He's always loud and angry and swearing. He's my kind of guy.
I will call one game my game of the year this year the same way as I called one game my game of the year last year, and I will do so because of my own specific criteria, which is distilled down to a simple core. Is this the game I enjoyed playing the most? If yes, game of the year. If not, end. And it's that simple for me. Like, Snoov, you were talking a lot about graphics, but I'm gonna just take a minute to mention the difference between a game's graphics and a game's art direction. You'll never win a game of the year for graphics, as far as I'm concerned. That's little more than like the fidelity of the image and the clarity, etc. The art direction will win you game of the year. What looks the way it looks and why? Does that match the tone of the game? Like the art direction, for example, in Bioshock Infinite was fucking astounding.
Yes, it was.
Even Banner Saga, since you mentioned it earlier.
Yeah. Graphically, it was any other AAA title.
I should clarify, when I say graphically, exactly what you're saying is what I meant, but in a way too generalized term.
It's stuff like the art direction that makes the game stand out. I've got a lot of AAA titles on my games of the year list, and I've got like indie. I think it's like 5 and 5 equal split. I think that's how it worked out. And when I'm talking about like the art direction of these games, the indie stuff contends, as far as I'm concerned, with the AAA stuff with regards to art direction, because stuff was chosen for a very specific reason. Indies games, they look great. They appeal to the eye for dramatically different reasons. One of them could be an 8-bit game when you're looking at it, but it works with the game so fucking well. And others, like, you know, stuff like Banner Saga and stuff, just stand out for being just gorgeous and so nicely done. So I don't know, I'm really up my own arse basically lately about game of the year stuff and what makes something a game of the year, because I've been thinking about it so much, and I've come to loathe the way that like big magazines and stuff will christen their game of the year.
Well, you know what the problem with that is too, that I can't stand, is that I'm sure these guys started out doing this shit for a passion, and then it became a paycheck, and they got to keep that money rolling in. And I understand it, but that doesn't mean I have to like it or respect it. And I feel like a lot of these gaming magazines just blow a lot of smoke up your ass just to make sure they keep getting those ads and getting those paychecks coming in, so they can keep that job going.
And it's that vicious cycle, right? Because the more you're on the good side of the publishers, the more you get access to early access copies, preview copies, blah, blah, blah. I mean, that stuff's been all over the conversation. But the whole game of the year thing, I think in the end, I don't even know if people still pay attention to it really outside of the industry. I think inside the industry, people do take pride in it. Like if you're working on a game and it wins one of the bigger Game of the Year awards from one of the bigger, you know, magazines or whatever, that still means something. But is the average gamer swayed one way or the other? Like, are they going to look at a game and be like, huh, this won 12 Game of the Years, maybe it's good?
Yeah, I better buy it.
Yeah,
That's
I
actually a good
don't
point.
think that happens like that anymore, right? People get their opinions about whether they want to buy a game different ways.
Right. It's not like other industries where big time awards like that would actually have some weight to it.
Mm-hmm.
These Game of the Year awards and things of that nature, I don't think have any sort of impact or weight within the gaming industry.
It's because we're dealing completely in the subjective.
True.
For the most part, like let's say it's very different. Like if you're assigning something like Car of the Year, you've got your miles per gallon, you've got your safety rating, you've got your likelihood of part failure and all this shit that people will take into account. With a game, it's whether people thought it was a good game. So the only real advantage to like a Game of the Year is normally some free advertising. PC Gamer awards something Game of the Year. There's your big fucking thing. This is our Game of the Year. You got some free advertising going on. You've got suction basically with your publisher. You go from being guys who are working on a game to guys who made a Game of the Year. Let's talk about what we're doing next. Let's talk about our passion projects. And then it probably looks pretty good on your fucking LinkedIn profile as well. If you're like Johnny Numbnuts, lead developer of, Batman Dick Suck fucking Game of the Year 2015. It probably looks great. and you walk into your interview and everyone's like, "Oh, didn't you win some Game of the Year awards?" And you're like, "Yeah, I keep them in my pants.
yes.
It's awesome."
Yeah.
But like any benefit to consumers boils down to little more than generating discussion. That's it. What's your game of the year, guys? That's all it is to us. It's a fucking conversation that we have.
That's like 8 YouTube videos right there.
Yeah. Oh
Yes.
You know,
was thinking,
honestly,
like,
I can't even
10.
think of a single title that I could this year that's come out that I'd be like is a game of the year for me.
No,
Chat's
nothing
been
comes to
saying that
mind.
too.
Well, Shadow, not that I have played it. There's a lot of games I haven't played that I've been keeping tabs on. Shadow of Mordor seems like a pretty good candidate because the overall storyline was good, not great, but the overall experience of the game was pretty much bar none good. I haven't really heard
shit about Medal of Honor Phoenix.
I haven't heard anyone really criticize anything about Shadow of Mordor. The only criticism I heard about it was the ending.
Well, you know what? Well, this is what's really pissed me off, and I guess is segue-ish, but I'm gonna try to stay on topic with respect to Game of the Year. Is that whenever people look at games now, they're always comparing it. So the Shadow of Mordor was created by the same people who did the Arkham series, right?
No.
I thought it was the same Arkham people.
No, who was it that made Shadow of Mordor then?
I can't remember the name of the devs, but it wasn't Rocksteady. Like it was the connection there is it was published by Warner Brothers, same people.
Yeah, so what I heard is a lot of people were like, well, basically it's Batman, Arkham, the Arkham series meets Assassin's Creed, and then in the Lord of the Rings universe. So like people will take what should be like a really good game and they'll make these just ridiculous connections and they'll just distill it down to this, well, it's not good because it's these 3 different things put together, so it's not this original title and blah. It's the same thing that goes on with Hardline. I get tickled whenever I go to like, you know, Battlefield's Facebook page and they post a video. Oh my god, they post a video of like Hardline and I just click, I'm like, I'm only here for the comment section. I want to read all these comments and, you know, it's just funny to see people take something that you know, like, let's just enjoy it. So it's like, can we have a game of the year? Because people are too busy shitting on games now because nobody's being wowed by anything.
I am. I've been wowed by a ton of shit
you're a highly intelligent person though.
Yeah.
Like, you know, in our chat is a really highly intelligent chat, but like, you know, most of the people that are commenting on Facebook or YouTube videos, it's just like, do they even realize what they're saying?
First.
Yeah.
First, yeah.
Second.
I'll take a first. Yeah, I'll take a first over all that stuff. But anyways, I mean, I was trying not to get too off topic, but it just seems like what we've been talking about with Scanner said, it's, you know, it's just a conversation piece that it's that title that doesn't mean anything anymore. Because I remember when I bought Call of Duty, the Game of the Year edition, you know, it was like, oh my god, this is awesome because it came with the two expansion packs for it and everything else. It's like, wow, it was a big deal because Game of the Year wasn't such a, you know, loosely thrown around word or a title or an award.
That's actually a really interesting point and hints at the maybe devaluation of a Game of the Year title even within the industry. There was a time when if something got a Game of the Year award, you could expect the Game of the Year edition. So maybe if you had been thinking about buying it, it would give you pause and then give you reason to pick it up. You pick this up, it's got some extra shit. It's got a new area, it's got the DLCs with it, it's got whatever. But now we've got Game A Release Edition, Game A 2 Pre-Order Editions, Game A GameStop Edition, Game A
Amazon
DLCs and premiums and season passes, and that goes on for about a year. And then you've got Game A Remastered Edition, Game A Definitive Edition, Game A Fuck Off Edition. It just seems to go on forever. Everything now is on this timeline of eventually we'll do an edition that just combos everything down into one pack, which means fuck all because by then I've already picked up the game for $10 on Steam and I got a season pass for $5.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, and Game of the Year editions or Game of the Year titles used to come out a while after the game's been out. Now it's like the game launches as a Game of the Year.
Game of the Year.
It's like, wait,
Yeah.
who rated this? Because 8 people have played it.
Yeah. Well, don't you? I think, gosh, it was like The Last of Us had won awards before it even was released, or even it was like months. It was like 29 awards. Like, how did you win awards if you just released? I don't get it.
We made these up.
Yeah, we made them up. Yeah.
God Game of the Year awarded by me, because fuck you.
The only thing you think of is like it's like the Academy Awards, the Emmys, or whatever, and well, we'll say the Academy because then they get a chance to watch all these fucking movies, and then they're like, this is the best one of all of them. You know, then it's like, oh, here's our games, and they can play all the games and say, oh, this is the best soundtrack. But it'd have to be this like
close. Never gonna win a Game of the Year award, is he?
Yeah, we need like a video game mafia. That's probably what we need. Control this bitch.
Yeah. Just go around busting up kneecaps. I just fucking roll into Dice Stockholm and just start breaking everyone's kneecaps. They'd be like, what'd we do? But like, I don't know. Everything.
This is to get you back in line, son.
Yeah. You guys just needed a good fucking pushing around to get your shit together.
Oh, fuck. It always goes back to Battlefield, doesn't it, Snoop?
Yeah, but you know what? It's because we've all got a deep-seated history with it at this point, and hatred, and overall displeasure more than anything. But like Scanner said last week, it's there's a lot of passion there and disappointment. That's why it keeps coming up, because it's always there at the forefront of your thoughts, whether it's good or bad.
To shoot Battlefield in the face and go back to the actual topic at hand. There's certainly games this year I wouldn't bat an eyelid at anybody awarding them their Game of the Year, like Shadow of Mordor. If somebody turned around to me and said, "Oh, but Shadow of Mordor is Game of the Year," I'd be like, "I can accept that. I can accept
Dragon
that."
Age
judgment.
just won a bunch of the more prominent ones.
That's another one that I wouldn't. Not Dragon Age is such a weird beast of a game. It is good, like, don't get me wrong, it is good for a massive sprawling RPG with all the weaknesses and failings of every other massive sprawling RPG. It's really good and it's really fun. You know, I wouldn't, like, I'm not saying it's the greatest thing that you know, BioWare have ever done, but it's certainly such a strong contender for anybody's Game of the Year.
It's a good solid game, and it doesn't suffer from a lot of the launch problems that other big sort of prominent titles have suffered from. So right there it stands out because it hasn't sort of blown up in a bunch of people's faces.
And it's got the Iron Bull in it.
Yeah.
Like, they could put out a $25 DLC of extra dialogue for the Iron Bull. I would fucking download that shit and listen to it all day because that dude cracks me up. He's the guy in my party who never changes. The Iron Bull is always in my party because his fucking dialogue is superb.
I need to get more caught up on that game. I saw one clip of the I don't even know who they were. I know it's Iron Bull and some other guy, and they end up in a fucking bed together, and Iron Bull's naked. And they get like random people walking down on him, and everyone's like, oh my god, why? And he's like, what?
It's only peanuts, don't worry about it.
Oh, man. All right.
I think we've murdered Game of the Year as the topic.
Yeah, but that was a fantastic topic. I'm grateful.
Yeah, that was a great question.
Yeah, I'm grateful that Roscoe brought that up. Wait, no, not Roscoe. Shit. Hang on. LMNO Speed. Oh. Damn it, man. Get a fucking easier name.
Yeah, get a real name, loser.
Yeah, like Snoop 603. There's originality for you.
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna actually try and keep this short tonight. So this one was, I don't want to hit that one.
Do the Slats one.
I was just thinking the same thing. Okay, this one's from Slats or Slats Modding or fucking Slats PC never works. You take your pick. Simple question, really. Is there any movie to game or game to movie that you liked or disliked, and why or why not? I got 3 titles for you. Super Mario Brothers, the one with John Leguizamo and Bob Hoskins, Street Fighter, and Mortal Kombat. Now, the nostalgia filter may be a little strong right now, but when I was a kid, all 3 of those movies fucking rocked. Then when I went back and saw Super Mario Brothers, I was like, okay, that's pretty bad. But dude, Street Fighter was the shit. I don't even care how bad it was. It was so bad it was good.
Oh my
Mortal Kombat,
God.
I fucking loved Mortal Kombat when I was a kid. And the thing is, like, I don't even feel like you could point to either one of those movies and say, well, the fucking script sucks. What fucking script? It was made after fighting games. You could write whatever the fuck you wanted, and it would just work.
No, Steve, you don't understand. There's canon with fighting games. Like, people will get fucking pissed about this shit online.
I don't give a fuck.
What do you
Listen,
mean Kintaro said this? He would never say that.
Street Fighter, Jean-Claude Van Damme. Enough said.
Yeah, that's the worst guile ever. This Austrian dude or wherever the fuck he's from. France, I mean.
I don't know.
And Kylie Minogue when she was like late 80s on Bangable, so why the fuck is she even in a movie? Makes no sense.
The only video game to movie that I even think is acceptable was Hitman.
I haven't seen it.
Really? With Timothy Elephant?
Timothy
look,
Olyphant, which he was fucking fantastic in the TV show Justified, which is still on.
He was good in that, I have to say.
Dude, that is one of my favorite TV shows I've ever seen. It's still on.
It's a good show.
Anyway,
I'm just saying, of all the video game movies that are out there so far, that one stands out as the better movie. Trying to think of what other video game movies there are.
I'm reading the
I
chat.
can't even think of anything that I would have played or watched.
Oh yeah, Tomb Raider.
I haven't seen it. I didn't watch it on principle because
I
didn't care for Angelina Jolie at the time. You know what? The only time I cared about her was in old school movie Hackers. Fantastic.
Hack the planet!
Hack the planet!
Pretty much just a common standard that any kind of movie to game and vice versa adaptations are just generally not good.
Like
some
only
are
if they're
truly
by that
awful,
guy named Uwe Boll or Uwe Boll.
Mostly they're just not good.
Well, so Phoenix brought up Defiance. Defiance is a weird like animal because like the game and the show came out concurrently.
The game's not good.
The game's not
the
that
show's
good.
not great.
Oh my god, we played like I remember Chuck. You and I played the game for like maybe an hour. You know, we played the beta and then the game came out. And we're like, yeah, let's spend $60 and then played it for like an hour. It's still on my Steam list and I barely touched it. But some of the other ones like Resident Evil, someone's mentioned Resident Evil. Doom is a guilty pleasure apparently. Doom was like, no.
The first Resident Evil actually wasn't that bad.
You have
the first one wasn't that bad.
Of finding the vice versa.
A good game adaptation of a movie.
Yeah, like you have a better chance now. Anyway, stuff like the Lord of the Rings shit can be okay. The Batman stuff,
you
know, can be.
There's some potential. I still see
I think
great
we just lost Scanner.
deal of potential.
Look at his face.
Like,
oh, there he is. He's like... sorry, Chuck.
Max
I'm
Payne.
sorry.
Oh my god,
okay.
I forgot Max Payne.
Go ahead, Chuck.
Oh yeah, Max Payne.
Well,
Now that was a terrible fucking movie.
I was going to say that there is potential for some games to become really good movies if they do it well.
There is now. Your
Like
man.
Mass Effect could be a good movie.
That could be a great movie. Assassin's Creed, a terrible game, could be a good movie. With what's his name in it? Michael fucking Assbender.
Yeah. I guess that's the thing. Like, you got to try and find someone. I think the only way it's going to work is if you get someone that has a lot of love for the gaming world and is actually, you know, a relatively games relatively often, but is within the film industry. You know, you got to find someone that does both. I don't think you're ever going to get a good game from, regardless of who the director is, if they don't play games themselves. You got to find someone that does it, because I don't think without that first-hand experience, it's never going to translate well.
You know,
exactly. The reason why Marvel, like Tony's going to kick off here, he's going to get so happy. But the reason why Marvel movies have done so well, and like this age of Marvel movies that we're in is doing so strong in the box office, is because they're movies being made by people who are super passionate about the comics. And they're smart enough to look at the comics as valuable because they understand that they're valuable. With all these games, I guarantee you the dudes who were getting the rights to the games didn't even know what they had. It was a thing that was in pop culture, and the kids, man, they're all about it. The kids will love whatever the fuck we do. Whereas the Marvel stuff right now is happening. The directors love the fucking content. They're mining storylines. They're mining what the community loves about the actual comics themselves, and that will happen with games as well. It's just a matter of infiltrating to the point where they have power.
Well, I want to know.
Combination is really rare, though. Like that doesn't. I find a lot of times you get somebody who has either worked on a movie or a game and is really passionate about the other genre, and says, "I'm going to turn my successful game into a movie," but they don't know what they're doing, right? So it ends up with a bad result, not for lack of desire to make a good movie or game adaptation, but they're just not any good at it.
They just suck.
Yeah. Well, I think the big difference here is with Marvel is they're in control of their product. So they're not selling the rights to their films and then it's out of their hands. They're now making the movies that they want. So they're telling the stories they want to tell, like Scanner said.
Yeah, but they sold the whole company.
Well, yeah, I mean, but here's the thing, but Disney has allowed Marvel to do their thing. What's done them, has made Marvel successful as a storytelling element. I think video game movies. Now, my first question to you guys is, are they really necessary? Because if you're playing a game that has a great story, then what is the need to bring it into a live action? Because more often than not, it usually sucks. But then again, it's just like there is something in that game that you fell in love with that was magical. Something happened. It could be the voice acting. It could be the animation. It could just be the tension that you bring to it as the playing, the user. But that inevitably, that magic that you originally got with that game or that book, because that happens a lot with people who love reading a lot, and they see the movie adaptation of their books. There's this thing that it's this this quality that you can't quite put your finger on, and it doesn't translate into the next medium, and it gets lost. And it's just like, so why? Like, if you already have, a great story and it makes a shit ton of money, because Scanner, you hit it right in the head. It's just basically these people are taking this thing that it's sold a shit ton of games, and people are talking about it. They're like, well, you know what? Let's cash in on that. That's all it is. They're cashing in. They don't give a crap if it's good or not. People are gonna go sit in the seats. They'll sell tickets. They'll make money, and then they don't care. So it's just like, well, why do we need it to be moved to another medium? Like, why? What is that? What does it say about us? Like, why can't we be happy with just the video game version of it?
We want more always. But to your point with the what you said earlier is that I think whether you're reading something or you're playing a book, anything where your imagination is more involved, what makes you love that particular game or book is going to be different from somebody else. So right there, when you turn it into a movie, which is going to be the same for everybody, you're already, not making it work for some people. Yeah, it's the same thing when you read a book and you have a certain image of the characters. Game of Thrones does a pretty good job with the TV show, but for anybody who's read the books, you have this image in your mind of what these characters are like, and then you start watching the movie or TV show and it's not what you think it is. It breaks you out of that immersion and out of that imagination that you had when you were reading. So it's the same with games, I think, especially some of the better games get you really involved. We said that when we talked about Game of the Year, right?
Yep.
And movies they're a passive medium, right? Like you get fed stuff and you either accept it and enjoy it or you don't, and you don't like it. So it's hit or miss with games and books. You have some control over whether or not you're going to enjoy it, because you can make it a bit out of what you want.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of your own interpretation of what's already being presented at you. But like you said, the visualizations are all up to you and your imagination.
Games are tough as well because the characters, they already have voices. They have habits and tics and nuance, that gamers pick up on. Like, despite gaming in places being very unrefined medium, when it comes, like, gamers train themselves to pick up on the emotions in games, often with far less clues than you'd get from a movie. So, like, we fill in the blanks. What isn't blank is already really strong for us. Like, people really like The Last of Us, and I'd say if you said to anybody who's played The Last of Us, think of Joel's voice in your head, it'd be the exact voice from the game. It'd be that
Oh yeah.
that performance that was provided for Joel will be in their head. And then they go and see a Last of Us movie, and there's some fucking jerk off thinks he's fucking Joel. Who's
Yeah.
this clown? You know, that'd be the response. It's like when a character changes. Like the voice actor doing a character changes over the season. It's so fucking jarring. It's like listening to an audiobook where the chapters are read by different people.
Yeah.
It just like snaps you out of it.
Well, I'm glad you brought up Last of Us, because I know that's a movie that I honestly, when I keep hearing about people talk about, oh, they're gonna make the Last of Us, live action movie, I actually sit back and go like, what's the point? Like, there's no point in it, because this would be the very first time that I ever go in. If I ever watch it, that'll be the first time that I ever go into a film, and I know I'm gonna hate it because it's not exactly like the thing that I fell in love with. Especially when they start throwing around casting ideas for characters. They want to have that big forehead chick from the Game of Thrones play Ellie. I was just like, whoa, that's never gonna happen.
Who's the big forehead chick?
I don't know. She's got like these. Maybe she's got like gigantic eyes or something. I don't know. She just looks fucking weird, man.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. Like, what would make a good
girl.
one? And The Last of Us came to my mind. That's a perfect trap one, because, man, how do you live up to that hype and expectation for a movie like that, for a game that did so damn well?
And you know they're going to cast like fucking Tom Cruise
right.
as Joel or Shia LaBeouf.
No, they were thinking about what's his name? Hugh Jackman.
Really?
Yeah, Hugh Jackman is one of the names tossed around, apparently.
Don't you ever speak ill of Wolverine.
He wouldn't
Yeah, I
be
would.
terrible. There are a lot worse
he wouldn't
options.
be terrible.
No,
Well,
he
and like that chick. See, okay, so my ideal for Ellie would be that chick from the Kick-Ass movies, the Hit Girl.
Oh, yeah.
Chloe
Yeah,
Moretz.
because she's like, she's all super mouthy and shit, So it's like, oh, cool. Like, you already have a character or an actress that plays that sort of character. Easy to buy into. Big-eyed girl from Game of Thrones, not so much.
If Russell Crowe had stopped being so fucking fat, he might be able to do Joel.
Actually,
Imagine
dude,
him
he
trying
would
to
be
run away
really...
from a clicker and be like, "Oh, mate, fuck, I'm tired. Just eat
All
me,
they
man.
gotta do
Just
is
fucking
set it
eat me."
like 15 years in the future, and he's got an excuse.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know, trying to think of good games that have the potential to be a good adaptation, pending you get the right guy behind the project. Red Dead Redemption would have so much potential. And The Last of Us, for this reason, is because there's not really a whole number of ways that you can fuck it up in the sense of being too elaborate in some areas. One title I was just thinking would be really good. Hang on, it was Uncharted. Like, I think Uncharted would be really good, but unfortunately I could see something like that falling into the hands of Michael Bay, where he can tell like a half-assed story at best, but the potential is there to very, very easily put far too much focus in on the bullshit action and over-the-top explosions and shit. With something like Red Dead Redemption and The Last of Us, you really have to fabricate that and force that to make something like that work. So the potential of that happening is a lot less than, again, like I said, with Uncharted. I mean, it is Hollywood we're talking about, so there's always, I guess, a high potential to ruin it with explosives and bullshit over the top action. But I think Red Dead Redemption and The Last of Us would be two fantastic movies.
Yeah, well, even look at the new Tomb Raider. They've been talking about doing a live-action adaptation of the new Tomb Raider, and you can just see the maturity of gaming, where now film industry is like, oh, we should do that too. But what'll end up happening is it'll just be another, like you said, like another Michael Bay, or unless they go down that really gritty path. Like that, I think that's what most of the film people are afraid of is making a serious movie out of a serious game, and going to those depths like Tomb Raider and The Last of Us, and Uncharted not so much, because it's quite the action adventure comedy kind of. Not Indiana Jones like Crystal Skull bullshit, but fun
it's a
times.
caper movie. It would have to be a caper movie though. Uncharted. You'd have to keep the humor and keep the little bits of drama and keep the action.
Yeah, because
Like a
it's like
caper.
Uncharted has everything. It's got the action, the adventure, the drama, some romance, a little breakup kind of a thing.
So what you're saying is something almost like a Nathan Fillion role.
He's getting
dude,
old and fat though.
yeah,
man.
he's getting
Like,
old.
It sounds like I'm ragging on fat dudes in the podcast, and maybe I am.
He's still funny as shit, though.
Like,
Yeah.
You could have a guy like Chris Pratt could play Nathan or
Yes!
Nathan Drake.
He would actually be really good for that.
He's getting fucking jowly. I think that the best chance games have to be turned into good movies is actually the more cerebral side of gaming, which has been growing up lately. I can't, like, this might sound bad, but I'm struggling to see many actors who are coming of prominence now, like actors who are actually developing into good actual fucking actors. I'm struggling to see many of them fit into the archetype of the main protagonist of a computer game.
True.
You know, the burly, the bearded, the brown haired. Like, arguably your man Joseph Gordon-Levitt is probably going to be one of the finest actors of our time. He's never going to be that guy though.
No, he doesn't have.
Ever.
You know what? A lot of these guys.
You know
Who's
what?
that
No,
blonde freak that all the chicks love.
Who?
That blonde freak that all the chicks love. He was in Drive.
Ryan Gosling.
Ryan Gosling.
Oh, yeah.
He's an amazingly talented actor. He's never going to be that guy.
No,
And all these guys who are that guy, like Chris Hemsworth, he's that guy. Can't act for fucking shit. Like, he had a couple of good scenes that were like emotive in some of his movies, but most of the time he's just a big dude who's mildly pissed at you, and it works because he's a big fucking dude.
Because he's Thor.
Yeah, I love the guy as Thor. He's perfect
Yeah.
for Thor, but he's like, what the fuck else can he do?
I had a thought
Nothing.
for Red Dead Redemption. Who's the main character's name?
John Marston.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Josh Brolin. I think would actually work in that role rather well.
Have you
Who is that
watched
guy?
or seen Hell on Wheels?
No, and Tony, to answer your question, did you see No Country for Old Men?
The parts of it, yeah.
He's
Was he the psychopath?
no, he's the
No,
guy that
he's good.
finds the money out in the desert. He's out hunting.
Wait, what's his name?
Josh Brolin?
It's what's his name's son?
I can't remember. What other movies was he in?
Oh, it's Thanos.
Thanos.
Yeah, he's gonna play Thanos. I know who he is. Okay.
Punisher knows what I'm talking about.
Josh Marston.
I think I like because he.
John even.
Yeah, Zippo. I was gonna say the Goonies, but that's like no one recognizes Josh Brolin Goonies to Josh Brolin now. There's two very
Speaking
different
of-
Josh Brolins.
Speaking of games, movies, The Goonies, did you read the story during the week where the guy who was going to be directing the Minecraft movie left because Mojang basically laughed him out of the room over his Goonies meets Minecraft pitch?
What?
Yeah.
What?
That's what he wanted to do. He wanted to do like a Goonies meets Minecraft. Do you know what's really fucking freaky?
Yes,
I
Gangster
actually-
Squad. That's
I
sorry.
actually predicted it
What?
on a Catmalogian. I predicted exactly that would happen. But like the thought of a Minecraft movie, the only way that makes sense is animation.
Yeah, that's like fucking Saturday morning cartoon potential though. How else would that work? I mean, it worked with the Mob Squad from the Hank and
I was
Jed
gonna
crew.
say, yeah.
But you know that you can't throw that shit on TV.
No.
Just bring them on, get them to do it, clean it up a bit for the kids, and
Yeah, actually, if they could clean, I don't know if they could clean it up though, and it would still have that same punch that it has now. Like
see, cartoons of video games, they fucking worked when I was a kid. That fucking one about the moron who got stuck in his Nintendo. Does anyone remember that cartoon? He had a power glove. He had the fucking
Yes,
gamepad
yes,
as a
yeah.
belt, and he
Yeah.
had a light gun, and he had to like save the fucking world and shit.
that's
Yeah.
It was awesome. There was a number of good Mario Brothers fucking cartoons. There was Mortal Kombat cartoons. There was Double Dragon cartoons. There was a Street Fighter animated series. There was all kinds of funky shit. Like, cartoons work for computer
They do.
games.
The only problem I have is that it seems like some adults don't seem to understand that a majority of cartoons are made for kids, at least American cartoons, right? I think this is the same people that are just like consuming a shit ton of anime that expect every cartoon to be, rated M.
Fucking bronies. Seriously, I hate few people as much as I hate bronies. They're the weirdest, fucking saddest bastards I can think of. Sorry if anyone's brony, but seriously.
Yeah, I was going to ask something related to the whole games into movies thing. Do you think it's better if the movie is adapted after the game's main character and the main story that we already played in the game, or if it's sort of on the side and fills in gaps that maybe the game only mentioned in passing? Like Last of Us could fill in a lot of gaps if there was a movie without just repeating the story that we went through in the game.
I think you're going down a more dangerous road if you go that route, because people want to fill in those things on their own, and if people already have a wide variety of how they envision certain characters, like in books and stuff, imagine what, like, all the massive variety that people will try and fill in those unfulfilled plots, unfulfilled little holes in the plot along the way, because it's got such a much more vast potential for potential solutions and stuff, and how people interpret it. I feel like you're going down a much more dangerous road. It's, in the one hand, yeah, it's completely wide open, so whatever you do, you really can't point at and say that's wrong. But a lot of different people come up and say, well, that's not how I envisioned it, and therefore I don't like it. Versus you stick to the main storyline, it's like, okay, well, yeah, you differed here and there, but that's the fucking story. Or that wasn't the fucking story in the case of, like, Aragon.
You know what? It's kind of funny you should say that, because I think if they were to do a Last of Us film and use Joel and Ellie as the main characters, doing a film that exists between chapters would be the best option, because then they have the creative freedom to just make up the scenario. Because if they're just going to try to retell the entire story, then I think people will be pissed. But if they can find a way to weave a story in between the two chapters, like the fall and winter chapter, or actually no, they had kind of the DLC that did that a little bit, or I guess it'd be winter spring. I think they could do that. You could get away with it. But someone in the chat earlier said what they would imagine what would happen is The Last of Us, if they did it, they'd have to use basically the theme and the setting of The Last of Us world, but just tell a different story within that world. Which I can agree with, but kind of...
Game of Thrones game Telltale just came out with sort of does that, where they, the Game of Thrones universe is huge, right? So
aren't you like a new house, like House Forest?
Yeah, you're one that probably existed in the lore, but wasn't really ever mentioned anywhere, not that I can recall anyways. So I don't know if they made it up completely, but even if they did, they just kind of fit it in. So, which, I don't know. I guess there's dangerous pitfalls on any of those choices.
Yeah.
So true.
Yeah, either repeating canon or expanding canon is always a dangerous place. Like, comic books will regularly wipe the slate clean and start again with people. With certain, like, heroes or characters or something. It'll be like, right, all that stuff that we did, no, ignore it. We're starting again. And comic book readers tend to be reasonably forgiving of it once it goes right. If it goes wrong,
probably better than if you ruined my favorite character, kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
I'd rather you redo it from scratch.
Yeah. They always have their version.
Yeah.
So it's interesting.
Okay. I think that's probably actually a good point. Let's call it a night.
I feel obligated to point out that we managed to not talk about, who, with Jess not being here. So I think that's
I did in the chat.
Oh, you son of a
bitch. I put a link in a picture of what it is that I envision her doing right now.
Terrible.
Sorry,
okay,
I'll share it.
So, I think to end the night, everyone should go and poke Hank and Jed and Microsoft and be like, do that fucking emoticon where it's like that little fat dude that's like give all the things to them and be like, give all the rights to Minecraft to Hank and Jed. I think.
Can I just use a picture of you?
Yeah, there you go.
Hey, I ain't put a fat joke on you all fucking night.
Dude, one of the funniest things I saw with that like little fat emoticon pointing at the thing was Jesus Christ, someone's like tag on when you post on different subreddits, you can most of them have a little thing where you can add a tag to your name, and it was right after Rocket had deleted his Reddit account and everything. And it was that little emoticon thing, and it said, "Give us back the rockets."
Oh,
so
man.
stupid, but I fucking laughed every time I saw it. All right, no, don't screen cap it, you fucks. Oh well, too late. Dug my own grave. All right, guys, we're gonna call it a night there. We're gonna keep it short tonight. There was a couple other topics that we're gonna pass on. We're gonna change it up for next week. It is going to be, what is it? Week 7. Next week, host topics, and then from after the host topics, we're gonna hit everyone in the chat. So just to change things up, because we've actually, and I've probably said this for like 3 or 4 weeks in a row now, we all have our own host topics that we brought since frickin' week 1, just to have on the back burner in case we either didn't have topics or ran through the ones we did have way too fast. And we haven't had a chance to touch on them, and they're all still relevant, things we want to discuss. So next week, we'll start with the host topics, and then we'll just pick and choose things from the chat, and we'll go from there. Other than that, that's it. Thank you guys for watching. I appreciate it. More importantly, thank you to everyone that tweeted out the stream, that has Twitter and all that stuff, and retweeted my links and tweets and all that. Greatly appreciate it. Cannot thank you enough. You guys help make this. And again, thank you to everyone that submitted topics to the forums, because again, without you, we really don't have much. So again, next week, host topics. Week after, we'll get back to topics from the forums. Other than that, you all have a wonderful night, and we'll see you guys next week.
See you, nerds.
Yeah.